If you don't know where to find inspiration, you're going to find out really soon. Today's video is on where to find inspiration, and it's going to be easier than you think. Are you looking for inspiration? Are you wondering where to find inspiration? Well, this video is all about that, where to find inspiration. And I want to share a special practice that I do on a daily basis. And before I do that, I want to give you just a little bit of information, maybe some wisdom behind where this process that I'm going to be sharing with you came about. I used to live my life very cluttered. Like, I always wanted to have something going. I always had 2 or 3 projects going. I didn't want to have even a spare moment. Somebody once gave me the challenge to sit for 30 minutes without doing anything, and I was like, you are crazy. There's no way I could do that. And I actually did it. I set a timer, I sat down for 30 minutes, and probably about the first 10 or 15 minutes, I was like, I'm gonna go nuts. How can people just sit and do nothing? Because I could think of all the things that I wanted to do and what needed to be done. What I found after that 10 or 15 minutes, I really let myself settle into it. And I was sitting on my back deck, which is where I'm actually at right now. And I started looking around and I started seeing the green trees and I started feeling the breeze on my face. I started to hear the birds. We have a pond in our backyard and I started to hear the water bubbling in the pond. There were so many things around me that I hadn't noticed because I was so busy. And so allowing myself just to sit and listen and look and take in. After that 30 minutes was over, I actually felt like I'd been on vacation. Because in the past, the only time I'd ever let myself sit was like if I was on a beach somewhere, on vacation, actually physically on vacation. So that was a lesson to me that just sitting and listening and being quiet and allowing all the problems of the day to be set aside for a moment, there was some true value in that. The other thing that I found is when I can sit and just let myself be, there's a lot of information that is available to me that I wouldn't hear if I was busy all the time. And so now I actually have created a habit, or I call it a ritual, that I do every single morning to put myself in that space of getting revitalized, rejuvenated, and listening to information that maybe I wouldn't be open to receive if I hadn't taken the time to just listen. So I'm going to be sharing my process with you of what I do on a daily basis. So the wisdom, before I share that process with you, I want to just share with you the wisdom behind it. The most useful vessel is an empty one. That was, I think, a proverb that was shared with me. And it made so much sense that as long as I was completely filled up, if my time was filled up, if my schedule was filled up, if my brain was filled up, then I wasn't able to receive any more. So part of this practice is that every night I empty myself. I empty my vessel. I pour my heart out. And whether you do that in prayer or whether you do that in a journal, or if you just allow yourself to just completely empty yourself of all the cares of the day, in whatever way you decide to do that, I do it in prayer. And whatever way you decide to do that is perfectly awesome. But emptying yourself out, pouring your heart out, it allows you to be able to sleep. You can go to bed being completely free of any worries, any doubts, any anxieties, any bothers about what is going to happen tomorrow, any of that. It's great for awesome sleep. And then the next morning when I get up, I fill my heart up. And the way I do that is through something I call GPS. And that stands for grounding, prayer, and scriptures. And so I'm going to share with you my process that I do to fill myself up. After I've emptied myself out the night before, then I'm completely empty and ready to receive the next morning. And I will share with you too that sometimes I get filled up during the night, like just as I'm waking up, like that moment between sleep and awake, I'll get some amazing inspiration that is just insightful from a question that I might have had the night before. So emptying yourself out is a great way to receive inspiration when you least expect it. So when I get up in the morning, the first thing that I do is I go into my creating room. That's what I call my office. I call it my creating room. And I have a creating chair that I sit in when I'm receiving my inspiration. I have my vision board in there, and I'm probably going to be sharing some information about vision boards in a future video. So be sure to watch for that. And after I go into my creating room, I do some stretching exercises. And my ritual is that I do a little bit of yoga, and it only takes about 5 minutes. You can do whatever you want. If you want to go for a walk, if you want to do some, jogging in place, if you want to do some jumping jacks, whatever you want to do, just do some sort of physical activity, because that's going to get your body moving, and it will kind of help that mind-body connection, so that you can be totally focused, and that you don't have the aches and pains of just getting up. So that's step one, is to get yourself moving. The second thing that I do is I go and look at my vision board. And when I go stand in front of my vision board, I am in my vision board. I feel it. I see it. I see it in my imagination. I imagine that I am already there, that I have whatever it is that I'm wanting to create, that it is me. I'm living it right now. That's the second step, is to connect with your vision, connect with what you're wanting to create. And it's amazing, as I'm connecting with my vision board, that I will get insights that I hadn't gotten before, because again, I'm an empty vessel. I'm open to receive. I always have a pad of paper handy, and I jot down any notes that come to me, thoughts that come to me as I'm connecting with my vision board. After my vision board, then I go and sit in what I call my creating chair. And this is just a nice, comfy chair. I like to meditate in total silence. Some of you might want to use music. You might want to have some white noise going on in the background, whatever you love. Just anything to help you connect with your higher self, be really quiet, open to receive, all of that. So whatever kind of atmosphere you choose. Some people like to go outside. I will go outside sometimes. I love connecting with nature. And while I'm sitting in my creating chair, I just ask a few questions. So one of the questions that I ask is, who needs what I have to offer? Another question, as I'm visualizing myself in my vision board, I will say, what's the next step for this to become a reality? So that's a second question that you can ask. Another question that I've been asking recently is, how do I get to receive money today? So there's several questions that you can ask to get more information. And as an empty vessel, being open to receive, those answers will definitely come. The next step that is super important is that you trust what comes. And that's part of being that empty vessel, is that you have no judgment, you have no agenda, you have no decision about what the answer should look like. So just being open to receive and trusting it perfectly. I talked to someone recently about, she was saying how somebody had taught her to push through the pain. And I said, ooh, that sounds like really painful to push through the pain. I love to just be open to receive whatever the best next step is, and whatever the easiest next step is going to be on my path, and then taking it. And there's really no pain involved. Those next steps that we receive are always just tiny. It's always something that we can do that day. I've never had a step that I can't at least get the ball rolling within like 5 minutes. These steps that we receive when we're open to receive, when we have this empty vessel and we're open to receive from a higher source of knowledge, it's always something that we can do. It's always something that is simple and doable that day. So you have your next step, and you're trusting that this is the next step that you need to take. So let's just set that aside for just a moment. And when we're done with our GPS, that's what you're going to do very first. Just take your 5 minutes or whatever it is to take that action step. But for now, we're still involved in our GPS. So after the grounding, after receiving the answers to those questions that you ask, after getting your next steps, writing it down, setting aside, committing to actually follow through with that, then the next step is some form of scripture. And this could be a book that you find very inspiring. It could be the Bible. It could be some form of scripture. It could be anything. anything that you feel is inspiring. It could be Confucius say, it could be thoughts, that you have gathered over the years or whatever. Go to whatever inspires you and then close your eyes and just flip the pages. And then listen energetically, see the page in your mind, and wherever it lights up on the page and wherever it lights up in the book, that's where you need to go. So just flip the pages until it feels right. Just kind of scan your hand over the page until in your mind's eye you can see that this is the space where I need to read, and then open your eyes and read it. And this used to be when I first started doing this, I would read, maybe a couple paragraphs or 3 or 4 scriptures, and I would get something out of it, and it would always help me for that day. I've done this enough, and it's fine-tuned enough that one scripture and even one word is so powerful. So I encourage you to try that exercise. Just pick a scripture and just do it, not randomly, but seeing it in your mind's eye of where in this book is the most important for me to read today. And I promise you that if you try that you're going to get some amazing insight. You will get divine tutoring through the scriptures. And the final step is prayer. And some people do like to use their prayer in the beginning so that they can open the way for inspiration to come. And that's totally fine if you want to do it that way. The way that I love to do it is because I've been receiving all of this wealth of information, all of these next steps. I've been divinely tutored, all of these things through my GPS, that my prayer then becomes a prayer of gratitude. So all I'm doing is I'm just kneeling down and I'm just saying, thank you so much for the information that I've received today. And I commit to follow through with what I've received. And thank you for the gift of being able to choose again and to start fresh today. And again, that day, you're doing everything that you can to follow through with that trusted next steps. And then at the end of the day, what do? You pour your heart out. Pour it out in gratitude. Pour it out in anything that might have happened that day that might be heavy on your heart. Pour that out and go to sleep completely clear and open, empty vessel to begin receiving the next day. Awesome. So your action steps, you got those down. You're going to empty your heart out every night and you're going to fill it up every day. And be sure to subscribe and watch next week. And we're going to be talking about how to plan your life.